On October 7, 2011, the California-based U.S. attorneys held a press conference announcing a coordinated crackdown by multiple federal government agencies targeting the medical marijuana industry in California. To date, hundreds of dispensaries in California have been closed. Many of these clubs are in good standing with their community. They are permitted and taxed by the state, county, and city.
We've had this assault of landlord letters coming from U.S. Attorney Melinda Haag against several very well-respected and established dispensaries that were set up long ago in accordance with local ordinance and which have always been supported by their local governments, HopeNet being one of them, Berkeley Patients Group being another. There was, of course, Oaksterdam University. We had the Divinity Tree and others as well. In addition to the landlord letters, there have been federal threats against local governments not to pass laws allowing medical marijuana.
This crackdown was a departure from the campaign promises made by the Obama administration. It also contradicted a memo sent in October of 2009 by the Deputy Attorney General David Ogden outlining the federal government's stance on medical marijuana. He told the U.S. attorneys that they should not focus federal resources on individuals whose actions are in clear and unambiguous compliance with existing state laws providing for the medical use of marijuana.
Obama said he was going to respect state laws on this. He said, I'm not going to use Department of Justice resources to circumvent state laws. Well, that's exactly what the Department of Justice has done, because there are state laws that have been allowing this distribution, and the federal government has been circumventing it. The federal government is using the broadest possible statute, which is the federal forfeiture statute. Basically says if you've got any property that's involved in marijuana production or distribution or anything like that, the federal government can just take that property. And they actually do it through an unusual procedure where they don't even file a suit against you personally. They file it against the property, and the burden of proof is on the property owner to prove their innocence in the whole thing. And it's a very simple and cheap thing to do. This is a bullying tactic in many ways. All they have to do is spend 45 cents for a letter saying, "Dear landlord, your property is in violation of U.S. law. Please rectify this situation in 45 days or whatever, or ... That letter by itself is enough to intimidate 95% of the landlords.
6 years after HopeNet opened, a private school moved into the embattled Soma neighborhood. In reality, the entrance to the school is more than 1,000 feet walking distance from HopeNet. The school is only closer than 1,000 feet if measured as a crow flies on a map. The dispensary is not in view of the school, nor is it along the route to or from the school. The school has never filed a complaint against the dispensary, and there has been no interaction between the two businesses.
You really cannot get an honest trial about medical marijuana, or marijuana in general, to tell you the truth, in federal court. You cannot mention the fact that you were doing an activity that was in compliance with state law. You can't mention even that it was medical marijuana. That is supposedly irrelevant to your innocence or guilt. You basically have, it's like a Moscow trial situation. It's impossible to get yourself acquitted in federal court or to have a reasonable defense. And so these 45-cent letters, as I say, are very, very effective. Plus, of course, you have to look at the possible penalties behind all of this, because some of the statutes are very, very burdensome. And in particular, if you are within 1,000 feet of a school, and this is the issue that has been brought up here with HopeNet and other dispensaries in San Francisco, if you're within 1,000 feet of a school, then you are technically in violation of the Federal Drug-Free Schools Act, which was passed 20 years ago, before there was even medical marijuana around, to try to deal with drug dealing near schools. And the idea is anybody dealing drugs within 1,000 feet of a school or playground is liable to penalties of up to 40 years in prison. So they've used that as additional leverage against Kathy and Steve Smith, HopeNet, and other people who are technically within this 1,000-foot boundary from a school. That's very interesting, of course, as you know, in Smith's case and in other cases. We've had a situation where they were located there and then a school moved in after they had been in business. But that doesn't count under the law that they were there first. And another interesting thing is there was a similar federal law about possession of guns, making it illegal to have guns within 1,000 feet of a school. The Supreme Court of the United States struck that down in a famous decision, saying, no, it's unconstitutional. This is not federal business. But yet we have a situation where it's okay to have guns within 1,000 feet of a school, but having medical marijuana, even when it's being distributed only to people over 21 with security guards checking IDs at the door, that is a federal crime worthy of 40 years in prison.
The most glaring example of this disparity was the federal raid on Oxford University in April of 2012. While over 40 federal agents were using battering rams and sledgehammers to break into a business that pays taxes and complies with local laws, a gunman opened fire at a school 2,000 feet away, killing 7 and wounding 10. The shooter escaped the scene and eluded police for hours. While the Obama administration maintains that it does not wish to circumvent state law regarding medical marijuana, and the Department of Justice has released sensible statements to that regard, the California-based U.S. attorneys have demonstrated a contempt for California's medical marijuana system. Southern District Attorney Laura E. Duffy stated, "The California marijuana industry is not about providing medicine to the sick. It's a pervasive for-profit industry that violates federal law." Central District Attorney Andre Barat said, "Dispensaries make money not by selling marijuana to the sick, but to relatively healthy people." This has not been an effort to weed out dispensaries that are causing problems in communities, but an attempt to shut down the medical cannabis program California has worked to establish. The Northern District Attorney Melinda Haig stated to KQED News she was not interested in investigating individual dispensaries. It was her intention to shut as many down as she could using the Drug-Free School Zones Act, regardless of positive community impact or compliance with local regulations.
They've been running roughshod over local laws here, and even worse, I think the U.S. Attorney has refused on repeated occasion to give any guidelines as to what would be acceptable.
While the Department of Justice and the media have tried to make it seem that medical cannabis dispensaries are taking over California, the opposite is true. In California, cities and counties are allowed to enact regulations that work for their communities. Some cities have chosen to create strict regulations to effectively keep dispensaries out. Others, such as Oakland, Berkeley, and San Francisco, have created regulations to provide for dispensaries while keeping the community safe. In these cities, dispensaries are generally viewed as a benefit by providing safe access to medicine, lowering crime rates, and providing much-needed tax dollars.
And there have been really no complaints about any of the clubs in San Francisco since regulations were set in San Francisco. Same thing in Oakland and Berkeley and other places that have that going on.
When asked about the recent closure of Berkeley Patients Group, Tom Bates, the mayor of Berkeley, said, "They have actually been a very good corporate citizen in Berkeley. There have been no complaints. We get compliments from neighbors. We're really sorry to see them close up, because if we're going to have a dispensary, they are certainly the model. There were no instances of violence. They were excellent neighbors. They had good security. They contributed to the economy and helped local nonprofits by making contributions." The voters of the city voted unanimously that they wanted to have 4 dispensaries in Berkeley, and that was it. But evidently, we get trumped by the federal government. On June 7th, Attorney General Eric Holder appeared before the House Judiciary Committee and acknowledged that the Justice Department had pledged not to go after anyone acting within state law. Regarding the current crackdown, Holder testified under oath that the Department of Justice was only going after those individuals and organizations that were not conforming with state laws. HopeNet is compliant with all city regulations. In San Francisco, the Department of Public Health regulates and inspects all dispensaries. In a letter dated March 22, 2012, the Department of Health confirmed that HopeNet was in good standing with the city. HopeNet has operated in compliance with its permit requirements. As of the date on this letter, our agency does not have any outstanding public complaints about the operation of HopeNet. HopeNet is also compliant with all state laws. Regarding its proximity to a school, California Assembly Bill 2650 prohibits medical marijuana collectives from operating within 600 feet of a school. The federal government needs to respect this law and not attempt to circumvent it with a non-applicable 1,000-foot Drug-Free School Zones Act.
This is not the will of the people. We know Californians voted for Proposition 215. We know the support for medical marijuana in California now is higher than it has ever been. We poll on this regularly. It's, originally we got Prop 215 by, I think, 56%. Support is well over 70% now. And in many local communities, we have very express local ordinances allowing, authorizing, regulating, licensing, basically, medical cannabis outlets. And all the polls continue to show that in Californians favor actually a regulated system of medical marijuana distribution, if possible, and actually similar attitudes in most of the country these days.
HopeNet poses no threat to its neighborhood. In its years of operation, it has proven to be a positive influence and has worked to meet the specific needs of the community. Attorney General Eric Holder has testified under oath that the Department of Justice has not and will not target individuals or organizations that are within state law. HopeNet is in full compliance with city and state law. Many of the other clubs that have been targeted in this crackdown, such as Berkeley Patients Group, the Divinity Tree, and the Marin Alliance for Medical Marijuana, have all had the support of their city, state, and local communities. We ask that the Department of Justice uphold its word and respect state law.
I would cry. That's why now I come every day I can, because now that she just got that last letter, that what I heard that they only have like 45 days. I'm gonna be here as much as I can to do whatever we can.
So if they close down, I'd be without my medicine, period.
It'll be a sad, sad day in my personal life. What am I gonna do? I haven't got a clue. I'm a survivor. But how about the people that don't make as much money or don't have as much skills? What are they gonna do when they, and I'm not talking about just veterans, I'm talking about everybody in the local community. What are they going to do?
I wouldn't be able to afford the amount of cannabis that I need to control my symptoms.
Where would I go? Who would I associate with? Who would I talk to? You get down to basic things. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Where would I go? I can't go hang out over there because I don't smoke drugs, like that. I can't go hang out with the alcoholic because I don't do that. What I'm gonna do? Sit up here by myself. Then I start getting inside my mind, and there I go. I'm a patient. Most and foremost, I'm a patient. I have a disability, which is, I don't know how to, in certain situations, I don't know how to cope. And HopeNet provide an atmosphere where I don't have to place myself in these situations. Now, by having all this time,
I don't know of anybody that would benefit from HopeNet closing.
We help so many people in this neighborhood. There would be people that would not be getting their medicine. There would be people that would not be being fed. There would be a huge safety issue on the street. I would dare say thousands of people would be affected from it, because I think that we touch that many people. How would it affect me personally? It would be devastating. It would be hard to lie about that. It's part of my life. It's what I've always wanted to do, was help people, and just never really knew how to do it. And I think I found a way to accomplish that. I just can't imagine not coming in and seeing the community and the friends that I've made. And there'd be a really big hole in my life. And I just don't know how I would fill it.
HopeNet has proven to exemplify the true spirit of the Compassionate Use Act. They have reached out to meet the needs of their community. Their community wants them, and their community needs them. It would be a shame to shut them down when they support so many people, and so many people support them.
Look, Americans are pretty much universally in support of medical marijuana. There's strong support in all the public polls, and when we take it to the ballot, it usually wins. It's the politicians who oppose it, but even with that, we have 17 states now have approved medical marijuana laws, and we expect more shortly.
This shouldn't be about politics. This is about people's health and well-being. This is about safe and affordable access to the medicine that people need to survive. Help HopeNet continue its work by sharing this video with as many people as you can. Do the right thing and find ways to help those in need in your community. It's a great feeling.
There's nothing better than to walk into a room and see somebody when you first walk in and they're not doing so well. But when you leave, that person's all up and, got compensation for you and everything. It makes a difference. And know that, you along with your friends have made a difference. It really helps. It really does.
I feel great at the end of the day, at the end of my day, because I know I helped somebody. And that's why, to me, the good Lord put us on earth, is to reach out your hand and help your neighbor.
Personally, I look forward every morning to getting up and trying to find a new way to help somebody. And it would hurt me greatly to think I couldn't do this for my fellow communities, that I wouldn't be able to reach out and help my veterans that saved my country. You can't help but just grow 2.5 times larger in your heart, knowing I did something really good, that I helped somebody. Because the bottom line is, when I get to meet the Lord, I hope there's 100 people standing behind him saying, "Let him in, he helped me." That's what I really want.